No, it really isn't.
Did they know you were Catholic?
They did.
Okay.
They did. Or some of them did, maybe not all of them, because I was very discreet. And at that time I wouldn't wear a cross because I wasn't quite sure of the reception I'd get. So I was, perhaps, I'm ashamed to say, too discreet. However, this gave me an opportunity to meet with other people, and this is how I met my husband, it was his first posting. He worked for the Swedish Foreign Office, and he was working at the Swedish Embassy in Karachi, and I met him there.
And when you came back, did your father try to challenge your decision?
No, they didn't. It was just, we never talked about it. I could take a taxi or a rickshaw to Mass every Sunday, and nobody asked me any questions. That my parents knew I was going there. And in fact, my first date with my husband was he came to pick me up and take me to church. I met him on a party on Saturday, and he found out I was a Catholic, interested him because he was a Lutheran. And he said,
he was a Swede.
He was a Swede. And he said, okay, I'll take you to Mass, because he was curious about a Catholic Mass. So that was our first date. It was a Mass at the cathedral.
Little did he know, right?
Right, little did he know. And then we decided very quickly that we were going to marry, I think after just 6 months. But my husband in the meantime had been transferred to Holland. And when I told my parents that I wanted to marry a Swede, hell broke loose again. Because I think my parents had always hoped that I would marry a Muslim and then I would reconvert, come back here. And when that did not happen, they realized that it would not happen, so they were very, very sad. So I had a second rupture with my parents. I again had to leave home. My parents tried to, really almost blackmail my husband from backing off. And which I was very upset over, because I thought that they shouldn't have done that. And with that, then I left again, and I came back to Europe. And eventually, my husband and I, we married in 1965, and then for the next 4 years, I had no contact with my parents, because they were very upset with me. And but I continued with my brother, and through some of my friends I was able to keep in touch with them, although kind of not directly. And then an uncle of mine died, my mother's brother, and I went to London for his, when he was in hospital there, and that bridged. Because I always felt great affection for my family, and I know that they felt it for me too, although they were a little bit angry with me for what I had done.
Probably awkward not knowing what to do in what they saw as rebellion, but also a different world. I mean, the Muslim world, and to try to understand the Catholic world.
No, it was very hard for them to understand that. And of course, they perhaps thought that I was rejecting them in some way. That is why it was so important for me to keep my name, because I thought that otherwise they'd think that I had, not only I'd rejected my name, I'd rejected my culture, I'd rejected it. And I've really never done that, at least not in my heart. I've always been very proud to be a Pakistani, and I'm very grateful to them for my faith. So it has never been a rejection from my part. But I can see that they might have thought that. But anyway, then with my husband, we got married. Of course, we dare not tell anybody that we were getting married. We had nobody at our wedding, 2 witnesses from my husband's office, and that was it. We married in Holland. And then you have to have the civil wedding first, and then a religious wedding. So we had that in Holland. And
was it a Catholic or a Lutheran wedding?
No, it was a Catholic wedding. Okay. In those days, they still had to sign, that their children would be brought up Catholic and so on. I don't think they do it anymore, but this is this is not pre-Vatican, but still I don't think they had changed those rules then.
They pretty much still accept it, but was your husband at the time showing any interest?
You see, for me, the most important thing about marrying my husband was I would never have married a Muslim. That I would not have done. And I would not have married somebody who did not support me in my values and in my faith. That was the most, he didn't have to be a Catholic, but he had to not to be against it. Yeah. Because I don't think I would have been interested in somebody who was
set against it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it had to be, and that has been my principle even with my daughters. I've always advised them when they were dating that please don't marry somebody who is doesn't share your values, and I'm very happy that they both married very good men. So my husband, he was very attracted to Catholicism. He was he always came to church with me, and he was a great support the first 16 years of our marriage when he was not a Catholic, but he came. In fact, in the end, our daughters were telling him, "Why don't you become a Catholic? You're more Catholic than Mama." So when we were stationed in Tokyo, he finally became a Catholic. He was received into the church there in 1980.
I'm sorry, I forgot. What did your husband do?
He was working for the Swedish Foreign Office.
Okay.
So we've lived in Algeria, in Holland, in Italy, in Poland, and we finally landed.
So yes. You've lived in lots of places.
Lots of places, yes. And then we were in Tokyo for 5.5 years. And there we belonged to a parish that was run by the American Franciscans from the Holy Name province, New York. And they had this chapel center in Tokyo, in Roppongi, very close to where we lived. And that became our second home. And our daughters, I'm very happy to say, their real first experience of being in a Catholic milieu was at that chapel center, which was very warm, very welcoming, and we had a great time. And they have never ever not wanted to be Catholic either, you know. So it's been a very good, for us it was a wonderful place. I'm very grateful to the Americans for their warm Catholicism, and people that I met there at that chapel center. They were mostly Americans who came there, but at the time when we were there.
Most of your journey has been about your discovering of the faith. So in many ways it's what you've been receiving, and after becoming Catholic, coming home, did you yourself get involved?
Oh yes, I became involved already when we were living in Tokyo. I started to go to retreats and all kinds of courses and so on to deepen my faith, because I really wanted to do that, and because everything was in English. Before, we lived in non-English speaking countries, so there was a handicap there to get into the parish life of these places that we lived in. It was difficult in Poland, it was difficult in Italy and Algeria and so on. So, but when we came to this English speaking community, it really blossomed for me. And when we returned to Sweden, I got immediately, I had already started to teach catechism for the lower grades in Tokyo. But when we came back here, I got involved in the parish here. I go to Santa Eugenia's parish here, which is a Jesuit-run parish. And after a while, somebody asked me to take over to be responsible for the English-speaking group there. And so we started a catechism there for the English-speaking group, and I'm very involved there. And I teach catechism to children who are between 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. It's kind of a mixed group. And because I'm not preparing them for a sacrament, for the first Holy Communion, I'm trying to teach them to pray. So we do a lot of sharing and praying together. And also I try to get them to think about their faith. You know, I ask them questions and I invite them to, so that we don't follow any course material anymore, but just discussion and trying to get them to take up abortion,
take their faith seriously.
All kinds of things like that, so that they start, because I think there's been a problem with catechesis. I saw it in my daughters. They unfortunately did not receive very good catechesis.
Well, they were living in these different countries.
Yes. But you know, it was the materials. Now when I look back at those books that they received, my gosh, it was really awful much stuff. I don't know how anybody stayed Catholic with that. And I think maybe you can see the results in many countries, that people my age and my children's age are not very well catechized. But thank God that's changing. I see new books coming out that are much better. Right. But there is a lost generation there.
Well, you know, I think not because of what was in the council, but because of how people misinterpreted, misapplied, ran with the council during a time of people not sure what scripture.
No, it's not the council's fault. Absolutely not. No, but it's the way it was interpreted. Absolutely. And you know, when I look at the First Communion material, it's just absolutely appalling. It really is. So we've had to change all that gradually. Of course, we don't have the resources here either, because you know everything has. But because I teach in the English group, we are very lucky. We can get a lot of stuff from the United States, from England, and also from the internet. It's just fantastic what is available now. I'm absolutely very happy to live nowadays.
So you said your husband came in when you were in Tokyo?
Yes. After we were married 16 years, he became a Catholic, and so now we are a totally Catholic family, and our two daughters, one of them she's married a Catholic, and the other one she's married to a Lutheran, but he totally supports her in her faith. And
what are your thoughts on this in your lifetime? There's been a lot of changes in the relationship between the Islamic world and the West, and we really see it now. And in many ways, those of us that have no direct contact with the Islamic world, we're seeing it only through the news and what we're seeing. But you've lived it, obviously.
No, you know, it's like with any faith, there are good and bad people, there are extremists and moderates, and you know, on all sides. But what I do think that personally, I was very happy with Pope Benedict, that he said that we have to have a reciprocity. I think that is absolutely important. I think I can't understand why anybody should take offense over that there should be freedom of expression, freedom of religion. I mean, for me, it's absolutely vital. I mean, I can't see how I could live in Pakistan if it wasn't. I do not understand the commotion that was caused because the Pope baptized a Muslim at the Easter liturgy. I mean, it was his choice. He's a 56-year-old man, I think he was. I mean, how can you force people to go against their conscience? I mean,
I've often